She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA.
The WNBA brass can no longer ignore what Rebecca Lobo is about to say about Caitlin Clark and the referees because it is so eye-opening. Because even if we just saw the most amazing example of the Caitlin Clark effect following the WNBA's subpar refereeing in the Fever Sun game, that same officiating has the potential to completely destroy the WNBA. And WNBA legend Rebecca just raised the alarm. This is not only a logical argument. She disclosed what many in the WNBA are saying about the officiating situation behind closed doors. The league won't like this, but everything had to be said because, if we've learned anything, it's that the WNBA has learned nothing at all about how to deal with its golden goose, Caitlin Clark. Let's examine Rebecca's remarks as well as the evolving Fever story, which is both fantastic news in many respects and makes the WNBA's inaction all the more concerning. First, though, enjoy this video. Since the referee's pocket whistle is obviously not being used, every like equates to a spare. Remember to subscribe for more updates about Caitlin Clark and Fever. The WNBA needs a refresher, so let's go back a little.
The nerve, the second-year player clearing out that side of the floor, shooting on Stewie, and then watch the reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing.
It was just a few games ago when Caitlin Clark made her victorious comeback. In the first half, she scored 25 points, including 3 logo bombs in 38 seconds. Not only did it remind supporters of what they were missing, but it was an electrifying stretch. It served as a reminder to everyone in the league of who is really in charge.
And Cunningham is down behind the play, but they've got Caitlin Clark. Two players with incredible up. Clark, another long three. She's back.
This was the game that clarified everything, the statement of statements. Caitlin Clark is not the only asset to the WNBA. It depends on her. She didn't just make a mistake when she missed those 5 games. They served as an expose. The number of viewers decreased. Social interaction plummeted. The level of national interest stagnated. Without Caitlin, every WNBA plot felt like background noise all of a sudden.
But here we go with Caitlin Clark, singularly, being missing for the time she was gone, and ratings tanking, 50% in some cases. And then also she comes back and reminds everyone how spectacular she is, and everybody's talking about the WNBA. So if you needed to sort of have it affirmed to you that it is just her, that the singularity of her is what we are talking about, and her star power, you got it with this absence and then the way she came back.
The WNBA as a whole was bolstered by Caitlin Clark's return following weeks of plummeting ratings and increasing pressure. Their matchup with the Liberty was one of the most watched WNBA broadcasts ever, with a peak viewership of 2.8 million. For comparison, an average of 2.5 million people watched the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. It's true that hockey and basketball aren't exactly comparable, but Caitlin Clark recently defeated a century-old men's sports league in its championship round. That's abnormal. Rebecca Lobo, an Olympic gold medalist, Basketball Hall of Famer, and possibly ESPN's most composed voice in the room, has not overlooked the significance of this, despite the fact that WNBA leadership appears to have entirely missed it, a point we'll discuss in a moment. Check out her explanation of how seismic Clark's return was before I get to her remarks regarding the refs.
Rebecca, tell me, what does Clark's return mean for the WNBA?
Well, I mean, it means a lot more people are paying attention once again. We know how much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA. And for her to come back and do it in that way was just ridiculous.
Take note of Rebecca Lobo's statement. Once more, people are watching. Though it's a small phrase, it conveys a lot. Because it indicates that people have stopped watching if they start watching again. And we are all aware of the precise moment that occurred. While Caitlin Clark wasn't around, Lobo didn't end there. She continued by outlining the reasons why viewers flocked back as soon as Clark got back.
I'm sitting there at the end of the first quarter when she had that 38-second stretch where she drained deep three after deep three after deep three. I was just sitting there thinking, I've been around this league since 1997. I have never seen that in a WNBA game. Have we seen players go on runs? Of course we have, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30-plus feet. It was an exhibition by her.
That's the problem. These weren't your typical deep threes or even long twos. These were from a different zip code and were logo explosives. Fans watch because few, if any, players are able to do that on a regular basis and with such ease. Even Natasha Cloud, who hasn't been particularly kind to Caitlin's followers. The reality has to be acknowledged. As soon as she crosses the center, you have to protect her. This is not typical. Ask Rebecca, please.
It was just ridiculous. It's not often that you're watching the WNBA or that I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, I've just never seen this before.
Because we're no longer just talking about missed calls or tough defense, everything that has been going on, not just since Caitlin's return, but really the entire previous season and this one as well, becomes really troubling. We are discussing a pattern that has grown so apparent and evident that even seasoned WNBA insiders like Rebecca Lobo are speaking up. And the match against the Sun, which ought to have made everyone in the league shudder.
This angle is wild, folks. There's the eye gouge. Watch Mabry. Boom! I mean, come on.
JCS Sheldon and Marina Mabry essentially tagged Caitlin Clark-Medane with a body check to the court and a claw to the face, but for some reason none of them were sent off. I'm not lying that Caitlin wasn't chirping a little with JC earlier. She was, but disparaging someone doesn't give you permission to attack them. You can't expect the league to take off by simply knocking its face to the ground like it's WWE. Even the pundits were taken aback. It was audible in their voices. They anticipated being ejected. The response was the same around the league. Fans, coaches, experts, and even players were taken aback by what transpired.
Hey, we would have been crashing our team.
Courtney, if somebody ever tackles you like that,
Nobody would ever tackle me like that. They would play with Bridget like that, and then we would have to like take it up there.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying.
Nobody would ever play with me like
If
that.
that ever happened, you better crash out behind me, because I'm crashing out behind you. We can share the same jail cell.
Naturally, Caitlin's face claw and shove went viral and became the talk of the town, but it wasn't a singular moment of mayhem. The referees were ignoring the tension that had been building during the entire game.
This is JC Sheldon right here with an entire handful of Caitlin Clark's shoulder and bicep, and she's twisting it. Okay? I mean, this is wild. Here's the zoomed out look, the snapshot. I mean, this league does not have control of its play.
And the chippiness quickly boiled after simmering. Naturally, Stephanie White was furious following the game. Even before she spoke, it was evident from her body language. She took a seat, inhaled deeply, and then completely discharged.
You know, the game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger. You know, they're as good as they've ever been. They're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better, except the officials.
That's about as awful as you can make fun of the referees without naming them. You're not improving while the rest of us are. It's harsh and strikes at the heart of what a lot of players, coaches, and supporters have been experiencing. The problem is that the Sun game wasn't the beginning of this. Throughout the season, it has been growing. The inconsistent officiating, the missed calls, and the unfair and unprotective treatment of players like Caitlin Clark.
What was that play? Oh my god, this is rigged. This is rigged. She got yanked, fell on her hip. That's a hack! That's a hack! That's a hack! Oh my god, they hacked the one upon her and they hacked Caitlin Clark. They are both hacks. They are both hacks. They hacked Fever twice, and then there was a phantom foul called on Sabrina Ionescu.
The Fever's lack of calls was evident from the beginning of the season, but it reached a breaking point during their 90-88 loss against the Liberty. A game that became a hot potato for both participants and spectators. That evening's officiating seemed biased. While Indiana was unable to purchase a whistle, New York was being called for tic-tac fouls. With the Liberty accumulating attempts and the Fever hardly making it to the stripe, the disparity at the free throw line was obvious. However, the dubious calls, or lack thereof, in the last moments were what really infuriated people. At the very end, the worst happened. On the last possession, Natasha Cloud blatantly fouled Caitlin Clark, preventing her from even attempting a shot. Social media erupted as playback after replay revealed it. Analysts criticized it. Supporters were incensed. She went off with Stephanie White.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways.
It's ironic that she was penalized for this rather than yelling at the referees following the Sun game. The league seemed to be quietly acknowledging its mistakes, as if they were aware that it was unjustifiable. To be honest, they ought to acknowledge it. Because we need to discuss the growing dissatisfaction within the WNBA before we even discuss what Rebecca Lobo said, which is illuminating and genuinely risky for the league.
The second time where I'm attacking, it's very physical. I'm saying something to the ref, watch my landing space, watch physicality. I get laughed at, and it ends in my ankle getting turned. The same thing happened in Dallas, a flagrant that wasn't called. Same thing happened here. So my ankle is hanging in there, but it's starting to get very frustrating. I'm averaging less than 2 free throws a game, and I drive, I'm physical. I'm not someone who's avoiding contact. So I just hope that the safety of players starts to become a priority versus the ego of refs.
When players voice concerns about harsh play, the referees actually laugh at them rather than dismissing them. Now let's return to Rebecca Lobo and how all of this relates to Caitlin Clark, as players are out there laughing and declaring, "I'm going to get hurt if this keeps up." The bottom line is as follows. The game is ended if Caitlin loses. Everybody is aware of it. Whether they will acknowledge it or not, the league, the players, the networks, and the fans. To her credit, Rebecca didn't sugarcoat anything either. In the most tactful manner imaginable, she expressed what had to be stated. However, if you pay attention to what she says, it's far more worrisome than you may imagine.
She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said it needs to get better. Specifically, the consistency, not only from one game to the next, but the consistency within a game.
Did you understand what she said now? She went beyond simply stating that some coaches are worried. All of them, she said. The officiating is a major issue, according to every coach she has spoken to. This is when things become even worse. Because the referees have little choice but to make adjustments if all the coaches concur that they have lost control. They will have to follow a new set of rules. The unspoken one that declares, "We will defend our players if the referees won't." At that point, things become risky.
One coach told me, "We tell our players to be as physical as they can possibly be for 40 minutes because we know for 38 of them, they're pretty much going to get away with it." So I think everybody would like to see a tighter whistle and a little bit more freedom of movement.
Just that. It's similar to urging drivers to drive as fast as they like because there is no highway patrol and you'll be left behind if you don't speed, even if it is dangerous. The WNBA is currently doing just that. They're fostering an atmosphere where players are compelled to be more aggressive, even if it's dangerous, because it's about survival, by refusing to improve officiating standards. They are also aware that the referees will not intervene. We've already witnessed the result of it. The cheap shots, the body checks, the obvious fouls against Caitlin Clark, and the growing annoyance of coaches and supporters. And eventually, when it occurs again, it ceases to feel like an oversight and begins to resemble a message. It's open season when it comes to guarding Caitlin Clark, as the league seems to be implying.
And they just kept shoving Caitlin. They're like, well, they can't just keep calling fouls. I'm like, they're literally just running around hacking her. The referees have made it like a point that this is how you beat the Fever. You hack them. You don't even, it's not being physical. You just hack them. Because the referees are going to allow them be hacked. Late in the game with the Fever, hack them. Not being physical, hack them. Don't go for the ball, hack them.
And see, I understand. Rivalries are what Kathy Angelbert desires. In an interview, she actually stated that players shouldn't be kind to one another. And that's okay in theory. Rivalries are profitable. The game may benefit from a slight advantage. However, the WNBA doesn't need phony drama and dirty fouls when it comes to Caitlin Clark, so this is a huge miscalculation. In women's sports, they already have the most talked about, watched, and marketable player. And we now have the ideal illustration of why.
That's a flagrant foul. It's a hard foul.
When Caitlin Clark is on the court as opposed to off, everyone discusses the ratings. We are familiar with that tale. However, Sophie Cunningham's recent experience may be the most underappreciated evidence of the Caitlin Clark effect's true potency to date.
As we expected, Sophie Cunningham has reached 1 million followers. 1 million followers. Sophie Cunningham on TikTok has gained, if I'm not mistaken, I think she has gained nearly 900,000 followers. It's at least 700,000. Sophie Cunningham on TikTok now has 1 million followers.
After Sophie stood up for Caitlin, she instantly rose to fame. She amassed more than 1 million followers on various platforms. Caitlin fans' wall-to-wall love, her TikTok comments, and their gratitude for standing on her own 2 feet. Things like, "I guess I'm watching the WNBA now." The problem is that I urgently need a Cunningham jersey. It's not all about Sophie. This has to do with a blueprint. We have a perfect example of what happens when you support Caitlin, just as we have a perfect example of the ratings decline without her. Players who support Caitlin are followed by fans. They support their teams. They begin to watch the WNBA. It can happen quickly, but it usually happens slowly. And none of that can happen if Caitlin's not on the court. So say what you want about the refs or the physical play. There has to be a line.
The Indiana Fever, they need to go hockey, and let me explain this. The great Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player in my lifetime, okay, all respect due to Gordie Howe and everyone else, but they had a rule in the National Hockey League, and I've heard quotes where defensemen have said, they were asked, "Hey, how come you don't nail Gretzky along the board?" They said, "No, we'll hit him." But they say, "We'll never take a cheap shot. We'll never take anything unnecessary or anything too far because we understand his importance to the league and part of our paycheck we owe to him."
I'm not advocating against athletes engaging in physical contact with Caitlin Clark. She is resilient. She is not requesting special treatment and is able to accept interaction. However, pursuing her gaze as JCS Sheldon did goes too far. It has nothing to do with defense. That has to do with attempting to harm someone. Furthermore, that kind of carelessness doesn't only endanger Caitlin when the target is the league's face, the person who drives viewership, ticket sales, merchandise, and media attention. It puts the league's future in jeopardy. In addition to being risky, it is both physically and symbolically short-sighted. WNBA legend Candace Parker put it best.
So I think that the WNBA as a whole is in an amazing place. Now it's about business to me.
She's not requesting that players take it easy. All she's saying is what any astute veteran would say. This is a company. Caitlin is beneficial to everyone's income. Favoritism is not the reason for protecting her. Whether some players like it or not, Caitlin Clark is the driving force behind this increase. Thus it's important to safeguard the investment. And everyone will be affected if she falls again.
Kathy Engelbert praised the league star by saying, quote, "She's the most popular athlete in America." Not women's basketball player, not WNBA player, not NBA player, the most popular athlete in America.
Kathy is correct. The future of the WNBA is not limited to Caitlin Clark. The future lies with her. Furthermore, the league doesn't deserve what she contributes if they can't find out how to shield its most important asset from careless fouls, uneven officiating, and small-minded envy. Because when you back Caitlin Clark, this is what happens. Viewership increases. New fans pour in, shirts sell out, and the ecology as a whole gains. Teams, players, sponsors, and the media. Rebecca Lobo did say what needed to be said, but the question now is anyone paying attention? Because the next time Caitlin is knocked down, it might cost the WNBA everything, not just a game. Please let me know if you're still here by leaving a basketball in the comments. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you later.